Hey everyone, welcome to our live stream today, 3 Signs It's Time to Take a Quantum Leap. I'm Maria Joyner, one of your experience guides and founder of the Quantum Leap Experience. We're going to, everybody as you join, we'd love for if you would comment below. If you had all of the time and money in the world, what would you do with your time? You can answer what your day would look like. If you wanted to do nothing, that's no problem. Just take a moment from whichever platform that you are joining us from today and let us know, if you had all the time and money in the world, how you'd spend your days. And while we're waiting on you all to answer, we'll have a little bit of music in the background, and then we'll also go around between the three of us, and we'll answer that question as well. So Ashton, would you like to say hello and to share what you would be doing?
Sure. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Ashton, also one of the experience guides. So what would I do if I had all of the time and money in the world? Had a little bit of prep time to think about this. And to be honest, I don't think my day would look much different than it already does. I think I would probably wake up, drink coffee, have some time with my dogs. I would probably take the extra time to drive to a trail, do some trail running. I think I would go out with maybe a friend for a cup of coffee or for lunch. Go to the gym, and probably end, depending on the tide, with a sunset surf. The only thing that I would change if I had even more money is I think I would travel to like farther places. So maybe I would take some international trips every couple weeks versus every couple months. And I think that is pretty much how my day would look.
Awesome, Ashton. What about you, Chanel? What would you spend your time doing?
Oh man. Well, to be honest with you, if I had all the time and money and health in the world, starting tomorrow, I probably wouldn't do much of anything for a while other than like chill and like eat a lot of great food, go places I want to go. Like I probably would like drop all obligations, which, I would finish up my obligations. Let me correct that. Then after that, I would totally just kind of spaz out for a while. But I think after I do all that, I would come back to purpose and realize that there's still more for me to do. And I would use those resources to extend what I'm already doing now and do even more, probably buy a lot of real estate and, just do things that I want to do. But yeah, at first it'd probably be nothing, honestly.
Yeah, it's always good to recover. I think that's one thing that I frequently see, especially with entrepreneurs who have a big exit. They immediately start looking for what's next and rarely take a month to 2 months to really decompress and recover from the whiplash of what just happens. So I think that doing nothing is really important. And Ashton, that's incredible that your life wouldn't change that much. So I think that's really something that we're working. One of our main themes with the Quantum Leap Experience is building lives that we wouldn't change, that we wouldn't want to if we got all the time and money in the world, it wouldn't make a big impact. So that's really awesome. Like both of you, if I had all the time, money, and health in the world, I would buy up just lots and lots of land and preserve it, regenerate it. So I'd focus on buying land that has been damaged by, let's say, pineapple farming or agrochemicals, or raising livestock and cattle, and plant trees and regenerate it and then protect it. So those trees don't get cut down and built up. And then in that same breath, one of my passion projects in the future is I want to have a permaculture farm which is essentially a farm that's designed to work aligned with the forest, like aligned with the natural systems. And I'd have a permaculture farm and a technology incubator. So technologists could learn how to farm, and farmers could learn how to build technology. And it would be really interesting to see how those two worlds collide. So that's one of my passion projects. But it all goes back to protecting land.
That's awesome. It looks like we have some comments too from some other people. Judy says she'll be helping others, which I think is amazing, especially when you have all those resources, you can do that. And Sue says that she's going to be traveling and gardening and continuing her education. So I think that's pretty dope.
That's awesome. Yeah, well, Sue, you'll have to come garden on my farm when I buy it.
See, that's a collaboration right there. I like that.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Well, Ashton will be back on in a few minutes. We both are in Costa Rica, so sometimes Costa Rican internet just makes its decision that you're going to disconnect. I always call it forced disconnection. But while we're waiting on her to join, I just want to kind of lead into, a question that may be on some of your minds. And how do you know when it's time? Like, how do you know when it's time to take a leap? And some of those things, it's different for everybody. Like for some people, it's, I'm so tired of the Sunday scaries. I'm so tired of every Sunday being like, oh my gosh, Monday's coming. And, that may be a sign that it's time to make a career change or a professional leap. For others, it's different. For others, they've already accomplished all their goals. They've exited businesses, they've built organizations, they've accomplished their career goals. Maybe they've even reached the top of the corporate ladder, if you want to call it that. And it's really what's next. Like, if you can do anything in the world, what would be next? And is that a huge change? Like going from, I don't know, from being an entrepreneur to being a private chef, right? So I think it's really interesting to notice like when it's time to make those changes. And so I think that we're the only ones who know that it's time. So without further ado, we want to go into the main content of today, the main topic, and that is 3 signs it's time to take the leap. And we're going to share 3 of the signs that we have, that we have all experienced with our personal stories. And then we'll open this up for questions, and then we'll share a little bit more about the actual experience and what to expect here in Costa Rica. So Chanel, would you like to get us started?
Absolutely. So one of the signs that it is time for you to take a quantum leap is burnout. And for me, my burnout happened in 2017, I believe. I was very deep into my job position, working on a lot of projects at the same time at the job. I think it was like 2 conferences going on that I was branding along with all these other responsibilities. I was also freelancing. I had a lot of clients that I did like after work. And I was also writing my second book. So for me, burnout looked like to me was saying yes to too many things, operating at like 100 miles an hour with a decreasing gas tank. It was feeling like there was a wall pressing on me from this side and from this side. Like it just felt like I was just all consumed with just all this work. And it actually led me to become not only mentally exhausted, but like physically sick. Like I actually got sick. And even after kind of trying to get through the sickness, I still showed up at the event that I helped brand because I was trying to make sure everything was going right. But basically I was just doing too much. And the reality of the situation is that there was not really anybody toxic around me. The workplace wasn't toxic or anything like that. But I really had put too many unrealistic expectations on myself. I was really juggling with the conflict of trying to make some of my own personal dreams come true and like doing these entrepreneurial things like writing my book, while also trying to make someone else's dream come true. And I think some of you may have heard of the term, like, you can't serve two masters. And that's basically what I was trying to do, was be everything to this over here and try to be everything to myself. And it just, it wasn't working. I burnt out. And I realized that not only did I need physical rest, but I needed a mental rest. I was never going to allow myself to feel like that again, because it was a terrible feeling. And I haven't experienced burnout since then. But I also realized I needed to make a decision about the direction I was going in terms of my career, because I was stretching myself thin and I was trying to be everything to everyone but myself, and it wasn't sustainable. So that's a sign. And I think that if you feel burnt out now, or you're getting to that point, or you've already experienced it, it doesn't feel good, right? Anybody that's experienced that, please let us know in the chat. But it's a sign that something needs to change. And even after I experienced it, it planted a seed in me, but I didn't make the leap exactly at that moment. I still kind of was trying to figure some things out in my mind and make the plan, but it definitely planted the seed that something needed to change. And it's almost like it was an unfortunate experience, but it helped me to realize some things. So burnout is definitely a sign that it may be time to make a big life change. Ashton, what do you think?
All right. Chanel, as I was listening to you, I was thinking of so many people who, it's crazy. It's like I had like certain, obviously I'm not going to say names, but I had certain people in my mind where I was like, man, if they were listening to you right now, I'm sure they would be like nodding along, because I feel like I've heard, obviously not the same story, but same idea just over and over and over again. Another thing another sign that it's time to take the quantum leap is if you're ready to find a community of like-minded individuals who seek transformation. So, when we are talking about the quantum leap experience, a lot of times we're talking about careers and making a big change in our life to align maybe our values with our careers. But that's not the only way to take a quantum leap. So, in our little team of women that we have here, I kind of feel like I represent in a lot of ways like a quantum leap in lifestyle change. So for me, the topic of community and finding like-minded individuals was vital. I would say I've taken a few really big changes in my life. And the first one started in 2010. So, most people, they know me as an educator, an advocate for people with disabilities, a world traveler, and an ultra distance runner. But what people might not know about me is that I actually come from a history of addiction. So in 2010, I had reached a point in life where I was going absolutely nowhere. When I was a kid, I was super angry. I was one of those kids that I actually try and help now, where I was in an alternative school and I really struggled. And then, once I got out of school, I struggled with substance abuse. And I got to this point in life where I didn't know where I was going, how I was going to live. And I just kind of hit this point where a lot of people in the community in recovery, we call rock bottom. And, I think if I could have done it on my own, I would have done it on my own. I think a lot of people, if we can do these hard things on our own, we would do these hard things on our own. And I couldn't. I absolutely couldn't. So in 2010, I reached out for help. I got support. I had a community of individuals who had been there, and they helped me to get sober, and they helped me, most importantly, to stay sober, because that's one of the hardest things. Is it's not about getting sober, it's about staying sober. And that community showed me how to live life, because before I got sober, I had no idea. I couldn't handle the smallest of tasks. I felt like the rest of the world had a manual, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So in my very first leap of getting sober, a community was vital, and that community is still important to this day. But that's not the only community that I have in my life that's proven to be important. So something that I love to do in my free time, or not even free time, all the time, is something called ultra running. So, about a month ago, I finished a race of 100 miles. And most people, they look at me like maybe I'm a little crazy, which maybe I am, but that's okay. It was something I really wanted to do. And when I first learned about ultra running, I had people, I come from a family that's not sporty. And if anything, they're more into the gym and maybe healthy lifestyle, but they didn't understand endurance sports. And so I felt like there was something wrong with me. I felt like maybe I shouldn't be running this much. Maybe I'm messed up in the head, right? And I started meeting triathletes actually, and they, I was like, I'm training a couple hours a day, and they're like, couple hours a day, that's just part of an athletic lifestyle, Ashton. There's nothing wrong with you. And so from there, I started reaching out and meeting more people in the ultra distance community, people in triathlon, people that like to push their bodies, but they're in no way intentionally harming themselves. And with that, I learned how to fuel my body in a healthy way, how to improve my mindset with sports. So how I could not be so afraid of failure and still, go for big goals. It provided a whole host of friends. I mean, actually, this is how Maria and I first got to know each other. We live in a small town in Costa Rica, and somebody was like, "You have to meet Maria. She does that crazy thing you do." And I had heard that for like a month, and then when I met her, of course, we nerded out on sports. So my point is community is an important part in whatever leap we're taking. And I think in our culture, at least in the United States, I think we have this mentality of like, we do it on our own, if we just try hard enough, we're going to get it done. But if you look at some of the most successful people in the world, there's always a strong community behind them. So,
yeah, I think you hit on so many points that are so important there. And, it's not so much about, like, we have people who are tuning in today that I know have a big leap planned. And once they take it, they're going to need that support once it's taken. But we also have people that have already started their leap. And once you start your leap, like, it takes courage. There's overcoming fear and getting clarity to actually take the leap. But once you actually start your leap, like, that's when the real work begins. And so I think this community piece is, as you mentioned, is so important to helping people not just take the leap, but continue on that path. And so thanks so much for sharing, Ashton, because I think community is for me, I think community is one of the most important pieces that we're bringing to not just people who are coming in person to the Quantum Leap Women's Experience, but the community that's being built of these people, both men and women, that are making big life changes. Because it's a community that we can cheer each other along when everybody else in our life is like, yeah, she's definitely crazy. She's insane. Nobody ever said that to my face, but there's no way that people didn't think when I sold everything and left a fast growing startup to move to Costa Rica that I hadn't totally lost my mind. So that community is definitely the gut check. And I think a really, really important part of the 7 signs it's time to take the leap. I want to make sure we have time to actually go into some details around the experience. So I'm going to very briefly share about my leap, and then we'll go into some details about what to expect in the Quantum Leap Women's Experience. On the screen right now, there is a link, a bit.ly link to download 7 signs it's time to take the leap. Any of these, if you resonate with any of these and you'd like to get more information about the Quantum Leap Experience, please reach out to us. So for me, as I alluded to, about 8 years ago, I was co-founder in a fast-growing technology startup, and we had gone from 0 to 2 million in less than 18 months. Everything was going splendidly. But I came to Costa Rica, and I just saw a different way of life that I couldn't live in the United States. And for me, it really came down to being a product of my environment and having more control over my time. So if you place me in the United States, I can drop in, be super happy, go to technology events and startup events and meet with other founders. And that's how I spend my free time. Put me in Costa Rica at a beach, then I'm going to spend my time surfing and running and being outdoors, and not 2 hours in a commute, but 5 minutes in a commute. And it's just, for me, the big change was being more of a product of my environment and putting myself in an environment where I can personally thrive. So I sort of rejected this whole idea of what I'd already built and really tuned in favor of the lifestyle I wanted to build. And that was a lifestyle that where I personally, physically could thrive. So that was a big motivator for me, that it was time to take the leap. And for me, I knew it. I mean, when I came to Costa Rica, I just had a feeling. I'm like, this is the environment I want to be in. Like, I want to wake up to the sound of roosters in the morning, not the sound of horns honking. And also not the sound of total silence. Because I just came back from the States and I stayed in the suburbs and it was silence. I'm like, oh, I miss the sound of the animals. So that was when it was time for me to take the leap. If you guys have any questions, as we go through this, I'm going to briefly give an overview of the Quantum Leap Women's experience. Anything, Chanel or Ashton, you guys want to add before we start going into the fun details?
Yeah, I think just really quickly, I just want to reiterate that being burnt out, it could be either from, and first, number one, I think both of you are very courageous women, and it's just always amazing hearing your story. But going back to burnout, it doesn't have to be something that you're doing that you hate. It could be something that you love, but you just kind of burnt out in that situation, and you need to approach it from a different standpoint. Because I think I forgot to mention that I actually went from full-time designer to entrepreneur. And so I got burnt out doing something that I loved, but I just needed to do it in a different way. So you may be burnt out from something that you really enjoy, or you could be burnt out from something that you don't enjoy. But either way, if you start feeling some of those symptoms, you just need to kind of evaluate and see where you are and see what you need to do to move forward.
Awesome. Thanks. Awesome. Well, just to give an overview, so I want to share with you 3 takeaways from the Quantum Leap Women's experience. For those of you who, so I can already see a couple of you who have signed up, who are here, so welcome. So this experience is designed for women who want to disconnect from the everyday and reconnect with themselves in a deeper way. And this is really to tune out all the noise and to tune in to get the courage, the clarity, and the community you need to take that leap, whatever that leap is. If you don't know what that leap is, it's really the opportunity to disconnect and reconnect, to really start evaluating where your passions lie and what a leap would mean to you. So those are thinking around things like, what do you want to be doing every day? Do you want to be on the phone talking to clients every day? Do you want to be doing heads down work? Do you want to be doing nothing? And really understanding that, because whatever you want to be doing in your day, that should be the basis of how you choose what leap to take if you don't know. And during this program, the program is designed to be a guide throughout this whole transition. So this isn't just 5 days in Costa Rica. This is a community that you're going to have post of experience in Costa Rica that you'll be able to engage with, that will root each other on, there to give advice. Hey, my spouse is not supportive of this. How do I handle this? So it's really there. We're really building this. So we all have a community to pull from. There'll be 4 Quantum Leap sessions during the event. And these sessions, as I mentioned, are designed to bring you clarity and purpose, to literally burn away any fears that are holding you back, and to build an action plan. We'll also be doing one-to-one coaching during the event. And for those of you who have signed up already, and anybody who signs up before the end of July, gets access to a one-to-one branding session after the event, as well as continued coaching following the event. So if you've already signed up, you'll be getting an email in the next week or so with some of these, what we're calling early bird perks, for those of you who have already signed up, and for those of you who sign up in the next 10 days. Finally, I just want to share a thought here. And that is, our greatest accomplishments are birthed during the stormiest part of our lives. There's never the right time. There's always something else that's more important. And as women, and this is a big reason why I chose this experience to be focused on women. As women, we are notorious for putting ourselves last. We don't go to the doctor. We don't even eat. Like, how many times, if you have kids, have you gone all day and made sure your kids are fed, and then you're like, oh, wow, I haven't fed myself. We put our spouses in front of us. We put our pets in front of us. We put everything in front of us. And we're always like, okay, when there's time, I'm going to do this. And I really would encourage anybody who is on the fence or considering, now is the time. If we continue, when this happens, then I will do this, then we'll always be putting ourselves behind other priorities. And with that, I'd love to pass it back to Chanel and Ashton for your closing thoughts.
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying about, kind of putting yourself on the back burner. It's just, sometimes you have these thoughts about what you want to be doing. And it could be like very strong, the forefront, like you wake up in the morning and you feel it, and it's just like, it's always there. Or sometimes it's kind of like in the back of your mind, like it might not be screaming at you, but you know that eventually this is something you're going to have to do. And like Maria said, I would just encourage you to bring yourself to the forefront and really about your future self. Is your future self going to be upset with you or happy that you decided to make this change now, or in 5-10 years from now? Are you going to do the shoulda, coulda, woulda type of song? And that's exactly why I made the leap in September of 2020 in the midst of uncertainty, because I just didn't want to keep having these conversations with myself about what would happen or what could happen. I just was like, now's the time. So I definitely encourage you to take your own thoughts seriously and to know that you are worthy of the life that you want to live, whatever that may be.
Yeah, as Maria and Chanel are talking, it just brings me back to that first live event that we did, where I was talking about one of the things that helps me, take the leap or make big changes is, Maria, when you're talking about that, if you keep doing the if-then statement, then what's going to happen? And I shared this in the first live. Something that really impacted me as a child was hearing so many of these adults that would say, I always wanted to, but. I always wanted to, but. And that was profound how many people had said that to me as a kid. And, now as an adult, I see other adults who continue to say, I always wanted to, but. And so I think it's important to, as Chanel said, really listen to ourselves and ask ourselves, like, at the end of the day, this life is not guaranteed forever. And are you going to be okay with, I always wanted to, but, and that sounds cheesy, but it's a real question. So that's all I have.
So I'd like to end with actually a journal entry. One of my journal entries from 2015, when I was going through all this inner turmoil, and I had spent 2 months really going through this. Am I crazy? For 2 months. I mean, I was talking to everybody. Do you think I'm crazy for wanting to do this? And so it's nothing too profound, but this is kind of to help you all know that you're not crazy. So I just got up and happened to look out the window. This is when I was staying at the farm I was volunteering at, trying to decide to leave everything and move to Costa Rica. There was a huge rainbow stretching across, and I could see the lake, the mountains, and the valley. I'm in heaven on earth. As Steve Jobs said, as with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. I know that I found it, but how can I explain in a way I don't sound crazy? Honestly, the answer may be that I cannot. I may have to be crazy. And I guess I was, because it's been 8 years and still going for it. So, thanks everybody for joining us. I can't remember if I announced this or not, but we have launched a $444 deposit and payment plan. It is now live on the website. We did have a handful of people who requested that. So if you were one of those, it's live. So it's $444 down payment, and the remainder has to be paid before the end of August. Any questions, you can reach out to us at quantumleapcostarica@gmail.com. And that's all we have for you today. So I hope to see you in Costa Rica. And for those of you who've already registered, thanks for joining us today. And we look forward to seeing you.
And please go visit Quantum Leap CR, as in Costa Rica, quantumleapcr.com to register or to just learn more about this whole experience.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.